Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the incredible, and honestly pretty dramatic, history of a magnificent idea. An idea that was completely burned to ashes, only to rise again centuries later. We're exploring a story that's not just about ancient buildings, it's about the very essence of human knowledge, its extreme fragility, and its absolute resilience.
Okay, so I want you to start by just imagining a fire, but not a normal fire. A fire so massive that it burned continuously for 90 days straight. History tells us that the smoke from this massive inferno literally darkened the sky, and black ash fell down like snow. But the thing is, this wasn't just the carbon of burnt wood or paper. What was floating in the wind was the ash of humanity's progress. Centuries of mathematical breakthroughs, advanced chemistry, and ancient surgical techniques. Just gone.
Section 1. The Golden Age of Magadha.
To really grasp what we lost in that fire, we got to rewind about 700 years before the destruction, traveling all the way back to the 5th century. We have to completely leave behind our modern world of smartphones and Wi-Fi to look at a time when the globe was vastly different. Because while Europe was totally bogged down in the Dark Ages, where illness was often treated as witchcraft and flat Earth theories were just accepted as fact, over in India, during the Gupta Empire's Golden Age, Emperor Kumaragupta was laying the foundation for something extraordinary. He wasn't building another fortress for war. He was building a city entirely dedicated to scientific reasoning and intellect.
That city was Nalanda. And the very name itself was kind of a mantra for the world's first fully residential university. Derived from Sanskrit, Nalam symbolizes the lotus, or knowledge, and Da means to give. Put it together and it represents the unstoppable, continuous flow of knowledge. It was a place creating a legacy where intellect was the absolute only currency that mattered.
And the sheer scale of this place, it is staggering. Picture 10,000 students and 2,000 teachers living together on this massive campus. That is a 1-to-5 student-teacher ratio. That's a metric that today's elite Ivy League recruiters can literally only dream of. Ancient Chinese travelers even documented that the 9-story buildings of Nalanda were so tall, their roofs seemed to drink the clouds.
Section 2. The University of the World.
Scholars were arriving from the banks of China's Yellow River, the mountains of Korea, the deserts of Persia, and the markets of Turkey. They showed up with blisters on their feet from walking thousands of miles, but they had this immense hope in their eyes. But getting to the gates was only the first step. That 80%? That represents the failure rate of history's toughest entrance exam. There was no written test. The exam was administered right at the gates by the university's top scholar. And you had to defeat this gatekeeper in a fierce, on-the-spot philosophical debate just to be allowed inside.
So for the 20% who actually survived that brutal test, they entered a true spiritual and intellectual utopia. It was completely devoid of VIP quotas, caste systems, or religious discrimination. Outside, you might be a king's son or a poor farmer, but inside, you shaved your head, wore the exact same robes, and ate from the exact same plate as everyone else. You were simply a seeker of truth.
And the curriculum was just as diverse as the student body. This wasn't some strict religious monastery where people just quietly memorized scriptures. Not at all. Doubt and questioning were actively celebrated here. Students explored everything from grammar and medicine to logic and even atheism right alongside theology. The unwritten motto of Nalanda was basically to question everything, even your own religion.
Section 3. The Clash of Paradigms. All right, let's fast forward to the late 12th century. The golden era of peace is fading, a shifting political landscape has weakened the region, and a dangerous new force arrives on the scene. We meet Bakhtiar Khilji, a military general looking to make a big name for himself. Now, Khilji had fallen incredibly ill, hovering right on the absolute brink of death, and his royal physicians had completely failed to cure him. Someone suggested calling the head of the Ayurveda department from Nalanda, but Khilji was deeply arrogant. He threatened to just behead the university's top medical scholar rather than consume any traditional medicine from what he called an infidel.
What unfolds next is straight out of an ancient medical thriller. The Nalanda scholar, Rahu Sribhadra, totally outsmarted Khilji's stubbornness. Sribhadra applied a colorless, completely tasteless medicinal paste directly to the corners of the pages of the Quran that Khilji read every single day. Every time the general licked his finger to turn a page, he unknowingly ingested the medicine, and within days, he was completely cured. But here's the kicker. Instead of feeling gratitude for having his life saved, Khilji felt this dark, toxic jealousy. He just couldn't fathom that these unarmed, peaceful scholars possessed a superior, life-saving science that his own people did not have. He saw this profound knowledge not as a gift to the world, but as a direct threat to his authority and his worldview.
Section 4. History turned to ashes.
Driven by that fear and a deeply bruised ego, Khilji actually marched his armed forces directly toward the peaceful, unprotected campus of Nalanda. The historical accounts of what followed are just absolutely chilling, because this wasn't a battle. It was a completely unequal war of swords and arrogance against unarmed scholars and books. The invaders stormed the campus, slaughtering meditating monks who absolutely refused to beg for their lives. The marble floors that once echoed with brilliant philosophical debates literally ran red.
Then Khilji turns his attention to Dharmaganja. That was the massive three-building library complex standing right at the heart of the university. It contained an estimated 900,000 handwritten manuscripts. 900,000. This wasn't just a library. It was basically the ultimate backup drive for human civilization. And he gave a simple, completely devastating order. Burn it.
This inferno didn't just destroy paper, you guys. It erased centuries of human progress. We're talking about the mathematics of Aryabhata, who was exploring zero and gravity centuries before the West, the advanced metallurgy of Nagarjuna, the complex surgical techniques of Sushruta. This single fire erased scientific advancements that might have pushed humanity forward by hundreds of years.
Section 5. Ideas never die.
After the smoke finally cleared, a heavy silence fell over the ruins. For 600 long years, the remnants of Nalanda lay silent under the earth, totally forgotten by the world, just turning into overgrown mounds of dirt. But the resurrection story is so fascinating. Using ancient travelogues written by those same Chinese scholars who once studied there, an archaeologist named Alexander Cunningham actually excavated the giant skeleton of Nalanda in the 19th century. Fast forward to 2006, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam proposed its revival. And then, by 2014, a multinational coalition successfully opened a brand new modern net zero campus right near the ancient site.
It really brings to mind what the philosopher George Sorel noted, that old gods do not die, they just sleep. Dictators and conquerors can burn down buildings and they can absolutely take innocent lives, but they can never truly assassinate a powerful idea. Just like a phoenix, the concept of Nalanda simply waited in those ashes for the exact right time to rise again. Today, you've got this newly resurrected campus and the ancient ruins standing side by side. They serve as a stunning monument to ancient genius, for sure, but also as a really stark warning. They remind us of how incredibly quickly unchecked intolerance can destroy centuries of human progress. Because the real Nalanda isn't made of bricks or modern Wi-Fi networks. It's an environment where the doors of the mind remain entirely open to new ideas. Which brings us to exactly where we are right now in the information age. We have way more data at our fingertips than the monks of Nalanda could ever possibly fathom. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we navigate our modern world. Are we actually safeguarding the light of knowledge today? Are we just quietly building new silos of intolerance? Are we truly learning and expanding our minds? Are we just scrolling?